Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the next video on environmental science and specifically going through predator and prey relationships. Let's get started on this next video. So in order to understand this relationship and how predator and prey go through and evolve, we have to understand the process of predation. Now, predation is a relationship in which members of one species, the predator, consumes members of another species. So if we're looking at this image here, all a predator is another organism that consumes another organism. How many predators are there in this image? Well, we definitely know the lion is going to be the predator to our prey, the zebra. But we can also look at this in a little bit different light. We can assume also that the zebra is going to be a predator to the grass in which it's going to consume. Grass is also a living organism, and the zebra is the predator in this specific relationship. So it depends on what lens we're going through and looking at this and zooming in on it. And when we think about typical predators, they're going to have all of these adaptations that allow them to go through and hunt down prey easily. In the case of cheetahs, we have rapid bursts in speed. In the case of sharks, we have these giant teeth that allow them to latch and hold on to the prey. Octopi, we have these tentacles, and we also see these almost suction cup like appendages that allow them to grab onto the prey. And then we have this praying mantis here, which has teeth along its appendages as well. And these predators' adaptations are going to allow the predator-prey relationships to fluctuate. And that's really what we're going through and focusing on. We want to look at how the populations of predators and prey go through and evolve. However, in order to understand how they evolve, how does a lion's teeth and a zebra's stripes go through and evolve over time here? Well, it's going to evolve via this process of natural selection. And the process of natural selection is whereby organisms which are better adapted to their environment tend to survive and produce more offspring here. So as we go through and discuss this, we have to be understanding this process. And the best way to understand it is in the case of these giraffes. Now, in the past, as we're going through and looking at giraffes here, so in the past, giraffes had short necks, but there was chance of variation in neck length, and some giraffes have necks that were a little bit longer than average. We can see that in the giraffe here. Giraffes tend to go through and feed on leaves, which they do now, and the environment over time went through and changed, and leaves became scarcer. Therefore, it would be more beneficial for the giraffes to have longer necks to go through and get to some of these more scarce leaves, and we call this the struggle for existence. So over time, what we're going to see is the taller giraffes with the longer necks are going to survive and the shorter ones are not. And given a couple generations and populations here, we see the overall length for the entire population of giraffes here get longer and longer. Now we can also see that as the environment changes, these organisms are going through and adapting via this process of natural selection. And again, we're seeing these shorter giraffes go through and be selected against. Now, in the end, the giraffes with the longer necks had an advantage. They could reach the leaves that the other giraffes could not, and therefore the longer necked giraffes were more likely to survive and reproduce. They had the greatest fitness. So what we can see here is over time, as populations going to fluctuate and change. And this is a relationship not only between them and their environment, but also the organisms that they go through and feed off of. So as we go through and look at predator and prey relationships, we can look at and compare not only natural selection, but we can look at how the populations go through and influence their size over time. So what we can see here is we have our prey population, and then we also have our predator population here. And as the prey population decreases, so does our predator population, and vice versa here. We can see that predator and prey, the population size, and also the actual physiological and biological advantages that each organism has is going to influence the other. It's an interwound, interconnected process. So the quantity of each population is going to have an effect on the other. Now, when we go through and talk about these population sizes here, we're talking about limiting factors, and this is going to limit the growth or development. And it's important for us to understand limiting factors because these limiting factors go through and influence the amount of prey present and the amount of predators present in those populations. An example of this might be the rabbit population that goes through and influences a coyote or some sort of predator that feeds on these rabbits. As these rabbit populations fluctuate and grow, we're going to see that the predator populations go through and follow. We can also think of abiotic factors that are going to influence a population or be a limiting factor. In the case of a goldfish or a fish population, the size of the bowl or the size of the container they're in, this abiotic factor is going to influence that predator and that prey population. So when we think about these limiting factors, we're thinking about them both biotically and abiotically. All right, so this is going to be a short video, but did you guys learn? Did you learn a couple of things here? Did you guys go through and learn about what predators and prey are? Did you learn about the relationships between predators and prey? And then lastly, did you learn about a limiting factor? This is going to be the end of the video. I will see you all in class tomorrow.